How quickly can a season's carefully laid plans crumble with one reckless, unnecessary hit? For the Vancouver Canucks, the answer came brutally fast. Just 6 games into the 2025-26 campaign, their short-term center solution, Filip Chytil, was violently removed from the equation by a late, pointless hit from Tom Wilson. Now, with Chytil on injured reserve and his extensive concussion history raising alarming questions about how long he'll be sidelined, the Canucks find themselves staring at a center depth chart that looks frighteningly thin for a team with legitimate playoff aspirations. The arrival of Braden Coots may have altered Vancouver's long-term center needs, and general manager Patrik Allvin seemed content exploring Chytil as a short-term 2C option. Through 5 games, everything looked promising. The team was playing well, Chytil had already notched 3 goals, and the experiment appeared to be working. Then came Game 6 and Wilson's hit, a moment that potentially derailed months of planning in a single, senseless instant. Currently, the Canucks are reduced to a center core featuring Elias Pettersson, Ada Rady, Max Sasson, and Teddy Blueger, who's also currently injured. That's nowhere near sufficient for a team with 2026 playoff plans. The Canucks may need to act relatively quickly here, but which centers could actually be available for trade immediately and this early in the year? Let's break down 7 realistic options that could save Vancouver's season. The premium option: Nazem Kadri, Calgary Flames, age 35, $7 million AV through 2029-2025 to 26 stats, 7 GP 0G for A4 PTS, 2014 TOI, 56.9% Corsi. Let's start with the only truly premium option on this list. Most high-quality centers are currently locked into rosters that still harbor some hope for the 2025-26 season. The lone exception right now might be Kadri. Not only have the Flames already started poorly, but Kadri himself is playing solid hockey, yet receiving virtually nothing from his teammates. This has to be a frustrating situation for one of the sport's most competitive players. From Calgary's perspective, there may be a desire to trade Kadri before any further decline tarnishes the remaining 4 years of his contract. Make no mistake, Kadri would still be far more expensive to acquire than any other player on this list, not to mention the difficulty of accommodating his cap hit. But that's appropriate because Kadri is by far the best center currently available. He brings championship pedigree, two-way excellence, and the kind of competitive fire that elevates teams in crucial moments. For the Canucks, landing Kadri would represent a massive upgrade and signal serious championship intentions. The question is whether they're willing to pay the premium price both in assets and cap space to make it happen. The rental favorite, JG Pageau, New York Islanders, age 32, $5 million AV through 2026, UFA pending 2025-26 stats, 5 GP 1G to A3 PTS, 1402 TOI, 49.6% Corsi Pago, holds the distinction of being perhaps the 3rd or 4th best center among pending UFAs, and probably the premier center who will definitely be traded this year. The Islanders are already salivating at what they can get for him closer to the trade deadline. But the Canucks are known for jumping the line in acquiring rental players. There's a possibility they could make it worth the Islanders' while now and bring someone like Pageau to the team. However, it would have to cost close to a first-round pick, because that's basically what the Isles will receive at the deadline anyway. Pageau can hardly be considered a 2C, but he scored 42 points last year and is solid in all facets of the game, so he'd certainly represent an improvement over the Canucks center depth. Best of all, there's no future contractual commitment. He's a pure rental who could provide stability without long-term risk. The appeal here is simplicity. Pageau knows his role, plays it well, and won't disrupt team chemistry. For a team dealing with injury uncertainty, that reliability has value. The value gamble. Tommy Novak, Pittsburgh Penguins, age 28, $3.5 million AV through 2027-2025 to 26 stats, 6 GP 0G, 1A, 1.1154 TOI, 49.6% Corsi. Novak isn't exactly a household name, but he had a run of success in Nashville starting in his 2nd season when he scored or paced for around 40 points. That includes 43 points in 51 games in his sophomore year, legitimate top 9 production. Novak's game has fallen off a cliff since arriving in Pittsburgh. But that's a tiny sample size with only 8 games so far. There's a strong chance he still has some offensive talent hidden away. And where else would you get a potential 40-point center for $3.5 million or less? Best of all, the Penguins have too many reserve forwards right now, so they might be thinking about moving Novak sooner rather than later. That reduces any asking price for him and gives him a chance to be the best cost-to-benefit option on this list. Pittsburgh's dysfunction could be Vancouver's opportunity. Sometimes a change of scenery is all a player needs to rediscover their game, and Novak's track record suggests there's legitimate skill waiting to be unlocked. The Reclamation Project, Lukas Reichel Chicago Blackhawks, age 23, $1.2 million AV through 2026, RFA pending, 2025 to 26 stats. For GP2G, 183 PTS, 935 TOI, 43.8% Corsi. Someone might look at Reichel's 3 points in 4 games to start 2025 to 26 and think he's finally figured it out. But someone has to score in Chicago, and Reichel's average ice time of 9:35 makes it clear he still hasn't earned the coaching staff's trust. An eventual trade seems almost inevitable for Reichel. He has enough skill in his game to be an intriguing breakout candidate outside Chicago's terrible system. At minimum, he'd have a cap hit that could be buried and couldn't require much trade return. Consider Reichel the lowest risk, highest reward option on this list. But also know that he's a project who would require significant work from Adam Foote and company. At just 23 years old with legitimate pedigree as a former first-round pick, the upside is tantalizing if Vancouver's development staff can unlock it. The salary retained possibility. JT Compher Detroit Red Wings, age 30, $5.1 million AV through 2028-2025 to 26 stats, 6 GP0G, 1A 1.1653 TOI, 48.8% Corsi. The Red Wings surely want to move someone. Not only has Compher's production plummeted, but he's now actively blocking the progression of several younger, more promising Detroit forwards. Compher scored 52 points 3 seasons ago, and at 30, isn't so old that he can't mount a productive recovery. But returning to the quality of play that made him worth $5.1 million as an unrestricted player, that's a bit tougher. Good thing this is the one case on the list where the trading team might be willing to retain salary just to ensure they can move the player. Compher at half price seems like a much better bet, even if it costs twice as much to acquire. Detroit's desperation to clear roster space could work heavily in Vancouver's favor here, creating an opportunity to add a veteran center with upside at a manageable cap number. The motivated trade candidate, Ross Colton Colorado Avalanche, age 29, $4 million AV through 2027-2025 to 26 stats, 6 GP, 1G0A, 1.1143 TOI, 59.7% Corsi. Colton has already expressed a desire to be traded from the Avalanche, specifically to play more at center. That's a good omen. What isn't a good omen is that Colton is struggling to provide any offense in 2025 to 26. He's typically a 30 to 40 point per season player, and it wouldn't take much for him to get back on that track this year. Perhaps even more is possible if Colton had a real chance to play in the top 6, something he's rarely had before, but would receive in Vancouver. At minimum, that cap hit is low enough to never become a burden, even if Colton doesn't work out, and his motivation to prove himself in a bigger role could be exactly what Vancouver needs, a hungry player ready to seize an opportunity. The veteran stopgap, Adam Enrique Edmonton Oilers, age 35, $3 million AV through 2026, UFA pending, 2025 to 26 stats, 6 GP, 1G, 1A, 2 PTS, 1240 TOI, 45.5% Corsi. Enrique is a useful veteran, but it's hard to imagine the cap-strapped Oilers are happy paying him $3 million to occupy the fourth line. If they could trade him now, they probably would, and they likely wouldn't ask for much in return. Enrique would be a stopgap at best, but he'd bring some savvy to the table. That said, he has a no-movement clause, so any trade would have to be his choice. It's difficult to imagine him wanting to leave a roster with aspirations for a third consecutive cup final. Still, if the Oilers sweeten the deal or Enrique values a bigger role over championship chasing, Vancouver could land a steady veteran presence for minimal cost. The Filip Chytil injury has accelerated Vancouver's center search from eventually to immediately. With a thin center depth chart and legitimate playoff ambitions, the Canucks can't afford to wait and hope for internal solutions. Each option on this list presents different risk-reward profiles. Kadri offers premium talent at premium cost. Pageau provides reliable rental value. Novak and Reichel represent reclamation gambles. Comfer and Colton bring motivated veterans seeking fresh starts. Enrique offers veteran stability. The question isn't whether Vancouver should make a move, it's which move makes the most sense for their specific needs, cap situation, and championship timeline. One thing is certain, standing pat isn't an option. The center search that was paused has officially resumed, and Patrik Allvin needs to act decisively before this injury crisis derails an otherwise promising season. After breaking down these 7 options, which center do you think makes the most sense for the Canucks? Are you team go big for Kadri or team low-risk gamble on Reichel or Novak? And do you think Vancouver should make a move now or wait closer to the deadline? Share your trade proposals in the comments. I want to hear which direction you'd take if you were running the show. If this breakdown helped clarify Vancouver's options, smash that like button, and let's keep this conversation going as the trade market develops.